Welcome to the Most Connected podcast.
Thanks.
Who are you and why do you do what you do?
My name is VJ Terzik. I'm the founder of Most Connected. It's a boutique coaching consultancy specifically around employee engagement and empowerment. And it's tailored towards those more technical, analytical organizations like engineering, construction firms. And I come from that background. I used to be an engineer, project manager myself, and I always struggled to get a sense of fulfillment. Like I didn't really know why I did what I did beyond just making money. And so what I do now is I serve those types of organizations to help them to connect to their own humanity, to their own personal sense of motivation, and how to come bring that together to serve the organization so that everybody, no matter whether you're an engineer, an architect, doesn't matter what industry, that you feel like at the end of the day that you're making a positive impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were to have this type of service a few years back when you were still doing your engineering and project management, would this have been helpful to you?
Oh, for sure. Like I know it's funny. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing my business to serve my past self. I look at who I was and there was two versions of me. There was work VJ and then there was like fun real life VJ.
Yeah.
And they never really came together. And now I get to bring those two worlds together. So absolutely, I worked in oil and gas, which gets a bad rep for being a bad industry, and maybe in some ways it is. But I think also it does a lot of important work, and it does provide energy and opportunities and jobs for people. So I wish I knew what the meaning of that work was for me. So certainly I wish I had access to this or was open to this type of work. That's another thing. A lot of engineers and people like I used to be, we don't like to think with our emotional intelligence. And so we kind of just resist that.
Yeah, more numbers focused, more analytical thinking.
Well, I think you and I can relate.
Yeah.
You're in physics. I'm in engineering. I loved it because there was equations and there was a right or wrong answer.
Exactly. Right answer, no ambiguity.
No ambiguity.
Exactly.
I love it. But unfortunately, or for maybe whatever, or fortunately, the world, there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, definitely. So over the past few years that you've been doing this business, what has been your biggest challenge so far?
Sure. Maybe I'll say the three biggest challenges. Yeah. So the three biggest challenges I faced in the time I've been running Most Connected. The first one is riding the highs and lows. Mm-hmm. There's moments where I've done a lot of business development. I get amazing clients. I get into it. It's going well. And then comes the down where like, okay, where's the next job coming from? So really riding those waves has been an emotional challenge. The second one has been I spread myself so thin. I'm like one of those golden retrievers. I see a shiny object and I go after it. Yeah. I didn't really know who I was serving specifically. I didn't have a niche. And then the third one is my perfectionism. Like my own personal challenge is that I needed things to be perfect before I did them. And often that would prevent me from doing things fast enough. My first business plan was 50 pages long. 50 pages. I spent so much time on it. And I wish I'd done little iterated steps to get me to the goal.
Yeah, definitely. That would definitely help instead of just like trying to make it perfect and then spending so much time to make it perfect and then it ends up being not even that good because iterating upon things makes it better. So if you like make that into your perfectionistic mind, then you do more iterations, make it start later and fail faster.
Yeah, good point. I love that because then you trick your mind. Actually, you're right. It's the failure that is the perfection. Ooh, I like that, Crisha. No, but that's totally it. It's almost thinking with that mindset.
Yeah, definitely. So let's flip the script now and let's think about what have been your biggest successes over the past 3 years.
Biggest successes. Well, I gotta say, working with people like yourself. I think I love so much like a team environment, the fact that I've gone to a position where I can support you in some way and have some other interns and some other partners and supporters. It feels quite fulfilling to be able to build a team, right? I never wanted to be VJ Consulting. Yeah. I always wanted to be a brand and a company, and that's why Most Connected existed. And so being able to be a part of a team environment fills my heart. That's been a big success. And then just sort of narrowing in on some of my efforts. I now serve more of the technical companies, engineering, construction. So coming into those companies and running workshops where I can help break barriers and challenge them to think about, hey, why am I an engineer? and seeing those aha moments. I mean, I've come out of workshops feeling filled with goosebumps and very emotional because I feel like I'm doing meaningful work.
That it's really important to get people to do this type of work, because doing the internal work will help like the external, and it'll help you make you feel more fulfilled and more purposeful in your life. And so how do you think you would get like someone who is so closed off to this type of work, how would you get them to be open to this type of work?
So put off by it?
Yeah.
It's a fine line. I think it's one of those things. If you push too much, you're gonna probably put people on the defensive. And so one of my past clients said, VJ, the people who are the most resistant to your work are also the people who would most benefit from it. And so it's a trick. And so one of the ways I try to do it, Crisha, is with curiosity. It's one of the things I really try to lead with is curiosity and understanding, seeking to understand. So with my entire sales approach, it's never one to sell or pitch something, it's to understand. And so I know you and I have talked about this, it's that customer discovery. And so what I do is I ask some questions and I help them see the things. Like I had one client be like, oh, people management, like this is a bigger issue than I thought it was. VJ, what should we do about it? And then when that curiosity peaks into wanting to take action, that's sort of where I break the barrier. But I never push. If somebody is not ready or doesn't want to dive into this work, that's okay. When the time is right, if it ever is, then we're here to do business and we're here to support.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where also our content could fit in. Like it brings a bridge between like the person that's a little bit hesitant, that's unsure of if they want to do coaching. I think it really bridges into understanding all this content, like consuming all this content and then being like, oh, this might actually be beneficial to me. Yeah, so.
Well, I think that's where you've been a big help, obviously helping with the social media content and even putting on stuff like this. I think less so with me, but when we share testimonials, as we've seen, those have success when we post them. I think people see themselves in those shoes and be like, oh, hey, like if Reed or Irving or Mirza can do some of these things, maybe I can explore these questions myself. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, and I do think people management is like probably the second biggest thing behind sales in business, especially if you run a bigger company with a team behind it. If you don't know how to lead a team and you don't know how to delegate properly and you're micromanaging, then it's not going to really work out for you, and your team might hate you, there might be high turnover, and your company might just fall apart. So I think like that's why these services are actually like more important than people think they are. And so, yeah.
For sure. And I mean, I know you you just touched on micromanaging. It's funny. That's one. So I tend to be somebody who can be controlling. Maybe it's related to my perfectionism. I want to see things executed in a perfect way by my own standards, but also by others. And so it's funny how even sometimes I'm having to, let's say even working with you, I want to let go and give you the autonomy and the empowerment to do something and bite my tongue momentarily because, but it's funny, like, and that's what some of my clients struggle with. If they're leaders in organizations, yeah, they have high standards, rightfully so. And sometimes they have a hard time letting go. They have a hard time not micromanaging. And like you said, it can create some resentment and you might lose some important work employees.
Yeah, definitely. And like it's not something that's taught in engineering school, right? So it's very essential to learn these skills, especially if you're just starting out in the company. So
I'd be curious to know, how do you feel? Do you feel like, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, do you feel that working with Most Connected allows you to carve your own path? Do you sometimes, and maybe it's okay if you do, but do you sometimes try to find the balance of micromanagement from me to you, or finding your own autonomy? I'd actually be curious to know.
Yeah, I think I do have like a lot of autonomy. I get to do a lot of different things. I get to learn from what it's like to actually run a business, from, looking at your business and seeing how that could translate into my own business, and like learning and taking the learnings from that and applying it to myself and my business and even your business. So it's been very fun.
Nice. Yeah. What's been your biggest learning? Or some of your biggest learnings so far?
Yeah, I think just like taking the plunge, just like doing the things and putting yourself out there has been like the biggest things for me.
Yeah.
How does your engineering background help you in what you're doing today? Because this is so different from engineering. You're running your own business.
No, it's a good question. I think for a long time, I didn't see the connection, and I was afraid. I thought leaving engineering to do something like coaching consulting was crazy. One of my good friends, Ben McDonald, he's been mentioned in some of our testimonials, also a former engineer like myself. He now runs a couple of businesses. And he shared this advice with me that still resonates. He said, VJ, engineering isn't just a career, it's a mindset. Yeah. And that unlocked for me, because I went from thinking engineering was just equations and pragmatic problems to, wait a second, engineering is about breaking things down from the complex into the simple, right? Exactly. When you think about those equations, like, what are the givens? Yes. What are the unknowns? Exactly. What am I solving for? Exactly. And I kid you not, Crisha, I think that's like through and through the process, even whether it's a human, I'm like, okay, what do I know about them? Yeah. What are the challenges? So I take that analytical approach, and I think my clients relate to it. In fact, I'd say that's the other thing. I have the approach where it's taking the analytical problem-solving approach, but then also the relatability. I think one of the things that puts me apart from others in this space, whether they're HR professionals or coaches, is that they maybe come from more HR coaching background.
Exactly, more of like a psychology based approach, right?
Which is great. I come from like the boots on the ground, engineer, construction work, 10, 12 years I did that. Yeah. And so I think that's something that a lot of my clients, whether they're engineers or construction people, they can relate. They can like, hey, this person's been in my shoes. And so I think that relatability is a big part of what I take to succeed in this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now let's just wrap it up. If you were to transport yourself back to when you were 20 with your same mindsets and what you know right now, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Okay, good question. Crisha, you asked the hard-hitting questions. What would I tell my 20-year-old self? You know, there's so many things, and I never want to trivialize this question by saying there's this one fit-all answer. So it's really difficult. I think there's so many pieces of advice, but what would I say? And you know, it's funny, I'm momentarily faced with a tough decision looking ahead in my own business with Most Connected, and I'm trying to navigate what that is. And so one of the things that I would probably remind my 20-year-old self, and I would remind myself now, is to follow my heart. Yeah. Is like really think about like what is, it's funny, I'm even thinking, getting a little emotional thinking about it, but it's like, what's the thing that's truly important? Don't be afraid to chase it, and everything else will follow. And I know it's hard to do because sometimes we make sacrifices for money and for success and for other things, but we have to be careful. We can't sacrifice too much that we like lose sight of ourselves. Yeah. So I think do the things that you love and everything else will follow.
Yeah, building that self-trust with yourself and getting to know yourself, because like in the end of the day, like you're like the only one that you have, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Crisha, maybe my last question. What's your takeaway from our short experience with this podcast? What's your takeaways?
Yeah, I think just to be a little more like relaxed, because like this is just a conversation, not just to like think about it too much and just go with the flow in these certain situations.
And how do you feel? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel tense? Or how are you feeling in our discussion right now?
Maybe a little tense.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I think it'll be fine.
I couldn't tell, by the way. Natural.
Cool, thank you.
What advice would you give to although you're not far from your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give to maybe to others in similar shoes to yourself? What advice would you give to the youth out there?
I think definitely just to work on themselves, get to know themselves better, because if you spend so much time like looking for things or chasing things outside of you, whether that be like a person or a job or a career, then it's not really going to do anything for
Fulfill you.
Yeah, it's gonna like, you're gonna get that, and then you're gonna feel a little bit hollow, and then you're gonna go on this whole journey of like self-exploration. Yeah. But I think that doing it at the beginning, especially in your 20s where you're just discovering life, I think that's really important.
Yeah. I love what you said, that like even if you don't focus on yourself, you'll feel hollow, but then you will later.
Yeah, like eventually, hopefully, I think that eventually people will go back to themselves.
Well, there's this saying, and I heard it on a YouTube video. I can't remember the speaker, but the saying was, in the end, everything is going to be okay. Yeah. And if it's not okay,
then it hasn't worked out. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not the end yet. So right, it's that time. So you're right. I think it always does come back to yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Crisha. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, VJ.